Jack here, owner of Hockey Alley, bringing you back hockey history. Today I have NHL player Adam Bennett, who played for the Chicago Blackhawks and Edmonton Oilers. So I'm going to be asking him a little bit about that. And also, he played in the OHL, so I want to ask him about how it was to go against Eric Lindros. How are you, Adam?
I'm great, Jack. Thank you very much. And then how's things in sunny Florida? No, you're in California, my friend. California.
Yeah, California.
Sorry.
It's good. Not bad. 50 degrees. Sunny, but we're gonna get a storm, which is okay. We don't mind.
Well, we're getting snow right now, and it's that time of year. We're getting an ice storm tonight. So you and I are speaking at the right time because I know we got power for a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. And so, can you tell us about you played in the OHL for how many?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Just quickly, I was born and raised in Georgetown, Ontario, which for people that don't know, it's about an hour west of Toronto. And I just played my minor hockey days in Georgetown, just playing with my friends, and at a AA level when a lot of other players would kind of venture off into AAA, which means you had to go to the big city for that. But I just stayed and played with my friends, moved up to the local Junior B team, which they now call Tier 2 Junior A in Ontario. But again, just stayed local. And then from there, I was drafted to Sudbury in 1988. I was the second overall pick that year. And then the very next year, in 1989, was drafted sixth overall to Chicago. So it was literally, small town Canadiana, with not a lot of exposure to, I guess the enormity of the situation that I was involved in because, we didn't have internet, obviously. So you just kind of follow through one level to the next, and from bantam hockey to Junior B to OHL to the NHL within a few years. It was a real whirlwind, straight as you can get from minor hockey to the NHL.
Yeah, it's a big step and quick too, not too long.
Very quick, yeah. And I don't, I don't think people realize is how fast things happen. I mean, because the other major sports, they'll draft kids at 21, 22, at the end of their college careers, let's say. But the NHL still insists on the 18-year-old draft, which makes it a crapshoot sometimes. So,
yes.
I am in favor, if anybody wants to petition, then maybe we should move the draft year back, at least a year or two, let these kids develop. Then when they're signing them to these major contracts, well, then you kind of know a little more what you're getting. Let them finish their junior, let them finish their high school,
yes.
or their college. And then, they can turn into professional athletes. I don't think we necessarily need to do that at 18. At least that's my opinion anyways.
No, I 100% agree with you. Maybe when they finish junior career, then you see what he's done and then go from there. I think that I highly agree.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot of pressure to put on an 18-year-old to go in and either resurrect or maintain a franchise. Why not leave it till they're 20 years old when they've matured, physically, mentally, they finish their junior career, then they're ready to step into something new.
Yeah.
So I've been preaching that for a long time, and I don't know if it'll change anytime soon, but I think, especially now with the money that these guys are getting, signing bonuses, it wasn't like that in my day. So, they could afford to be patient, but now, big contracts put big demands on kids at a younger age. And I think they're feeling there's a trickle down effect because I deal with the kids, in their junior years and prior, and the pressure that these kids are under, even, at U13, U14, where they have to make decisions. Do I want to go OHL? Do I want to go NCAA? I mean, that's a whole story we can get into, Jack, but yeah. I think the kids are feeling it at a much younger age. And I know it's not intended, but that's because they feel the urgency. They might be 14 years old, but they're looking ahead going, okay, I got 4 years, instead of being allowed to kind of just, mold into a professional athlete, they're kind of having to do it at a much younger age.
Did you feel any pressure when you're Bantam going into the first year of Junior B? Was there any pressure on you, or did you just have fun playing? Did you just enjoy the game?
Well, that was the great thing is I was playing for my hometown. No, it wasn't pressure. It was, just excitement to go and play because I knew some of the players on the team already. So I didn't feel it. And again, I didn't have the exposure to what it was I was getting into. It was just, you play at one level and then you move up to the next level and you just keep going. And that was a fortunate thing for me that I didn't have any pressure. I could just go in and play. It was more of a fun thing. And it was a decision to stay home, stay local, and play for the home team, which was kind of an exciting thing for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you had the same coach in Sudbury Wolves, Ken McKenzie, for 3 straight years, which is cool. That doesn't happen too often.
Not too often, and there was a new regime, and I mean Sam McMaster had come in as the new general manager, so there was a transition in the organization. New colors, new jerseys, new feeling amongst the team, and so Ken McKenzie was probably the best coach I could have asked for. Just being patient, understanding, coaching the game. But better yet, coaching the person, coaching the player to understand, what the transition means. You always knew that you could talk to Ken McKenzie, and even to this day, and I've had a few interactions with him over the years, but I email and it's like old times. It was such a great relationship. I can't say enough good things about K-Mac and really what Sam and everybody in the organization did for a guy like me going from small town Ontario to Sudbury, which I didn't know anything about. I didn't know the size of the town that I was going to. That was the naivety of my existence at that time. So they made it. They just made the transition so much easier for somebody, and I think there wasn't the expectations that I had to come in and change things right away. It was I was allowed to make mistakes. I was allowed to learn the game and take my time, and yet things progressed very quickly. But that wasn't that was because I placed expectations on myself. I guess that I had a certain standard and a level of myself that I believed I could achieve and wanted to play at. Therefore, I pushed myself to do that. They never said you have to come in and be a savior. I mean, they were, a poor organization for a few years, and they knew that, it was going to take a few years to turn it around, and it wasn't expected to be done in one season with one player like me.
Yeah. It's great. We need more coaches like Ken McKenzie for sure. There's not too many of them out there. Yeah.
Well, I think maybe Ken was ahead of his time because I know the demands are great on all coaches, right? I mean, you have to win or you're out of the job kind of thing. But if you remember, I mean, when I was playing late '80s into the '90s, there was a lot of tough coaches, right? And we can get into it when I get into the NHL. But playing with a Mike Keenan and Daryl Sutter. I mean, even you'll see now Daryl Sutter has sort of softened a little bit. John Tortorella has softened a little bit because you have to. The players have changed. But I think K-Mac was ahead of his time to recognize, let's coach the player, on a personal level as opposed to, force them to do things and put the pressure on to do things. Yeah. There's 2 ways to coach. You can either, throw the demands up and the player's either going to succeed or crumble, or you can work with them through the process, which I appreciated. And so if you want to transition, it was a difficult time in Chicago when I got under that regime, with a Mike Keenan, where it was a completely different coaching scenario, and that's that was difficult for me, to say the least.
Yeah, I'm going to get into that. I'm going to ask you. So you played against Eric Lindros in the OHL. How was that to go against him?
Well, you know what? I did a podcast recently with an old friend, and I said, if you could plant a seed and grow a hockey player, it was Eric Lindros. He was a man among boys, even when he was 16, and he was just dominant. He could basically do whatever he wanted and play any kind of style. He could be the physical presence as he usually was, but then he also had the hands and the finish. So he was a scorer and a tough guy, and you obviously wanted to be aware when he was on the ice at all times. But that's a generational guy. That's a guy that can come in and turn around a franchise, on his own. But he was impressive right from the get-go. And then, can't say enough good things about him as a player. He had it all.
Yeah, I want to ask you. So he's a Canadian. He's from Toronto, but how come he was playing in Detroit before he went to the OHL? Why did that happen? Was there anything going on that didn't work out for him, or you don't?
You know what? I don't know the story. I'm not familiar, but I do know. Canadians will very often go into major centers, and it could be a coaching thing. It could be just a new experience. I don't know what his particular situation was, but it's not unusual for some Canadians to kind of venture down and play, Little Caesars or CompuWare or Honey Baked, some of these big organizations at a younger age. It just might be, just an experience they wanted to get. I don't know what his particular reason was.
Just kind of curious on that. And so then you went to Chicago and you played for Mike Keenan. What was that experience like?
Well, that was tough, right? Coming from a coach like Ken McKenzie, and an environment there was, patience and so forth. And then to get into Chicago, where now you're playing with the guys that you saw on TV, right? So that was a big transition. The speed of the game was a big transition, and the size and strength of the players. So physically, there was one major transition that you have to be able to make at that level. The next major transition is mentally, being able to perform every day at the elite level and push yourself constantly. And what Mike Keenan was good at, if you want to give him credit, was the psychology of the game. And as I said, he would present scenarios and you were either going to succeed or you were going to crumble. And then if you crumble, he was hoping that, to build you back up, kind of thing. And, honestly, I didn't thrive under a guy like Mike Keenan because my confidence was really starting to go. Right, because I think physically I could play the game. It just became a challenge mentally under Mike Keenan. Now, hindsight being what it is, I understand now what he was doing. But I think there's a reason why the coaches have changed their approach is because that sort of coaching style doesn't last very long. Right, it creates a rebellion in the dressing room. There's only so far that you can push players. And for me, at that point, the breaking point was lower than it would be, as an older player, let's say. So, that was a bit of an eye-opener for me. But, like I said, hindsight, I understand it. I wish, it were a little bit different where, the expectations weren't so great right off the bat. But I know what he was trying to do. I just think I probably would have thrived under a different coaching approach.
Yeah. And did you have any mentor, any veteran take you under his wing and try to help you out or on a certain line that you played on or anything like that?
Yeah, that was the great thing because some of the players could see that I was sort of struggling, and that's where a guy like a Steve Smith would just come up, put his arm around me, and there was a couple of lines he would say is, one, you're gonna last longer than the coach, so just bear with us. And then the second line was, hey, we play for each other in the room here. We don't necessarily have to play for the coach. We just can play for each other. So it kind of gave it a different perspective. Like I was putting all of my I guess, lack of results or so forth in somebody else's hands. I was allowing somebody else to kind of influence my mental state. Where a guy like a Steve Smith, who's been around and been on a few teams, obviously won some cups and so forth, could see the bigger picture and just say, look, this is just temporary. And he really helped, just in those instances to kind of reassure me that, this is just temporary. Whatever you're going through. And I did look for some help while in Chicago, talk to, their sports psychologists and so on. Because that was the missing piece for me was, getting the mental side of the game, getting my confidence back. Because I obviously couldn't do on the ice what I was doing in junior hockey, because you're playing at another level, right? So I just couldn't carry over what was working for me. I needed to change a little bit physically in my game. And so when I tried to do certain things that I could do in junior and it wasn't successful at the NHL level, then it just put a strain on my mental side. And so there were some adjustments that need to be done. I'm thankful that it was Chicago with some veteran guys that could kind of step up and say, look at, it's going to be fine. Just stick with us in the room and, we'll all get through this kind of thing.
Yeah. Do you believe in chemistry? I mean, in juniors, maybe you had the chemistry, and in the NHL, maybe those line mates weren't working together. Like, could that be possible?
I do believe in chemistry, and I'll tell you, in Sudbury, I had Sean O'Donnell as my defense partner, and the reason that we worked was I was the offensive, spotlight kind of guy, power play, whatever, and he was the stay-at-home defenseman. Now I got the accolades, the high draft pick and so on, and yet Sean O'Donnell had an 18-year career, right, in the NHL. So, every team is looking for that big stud, stay at home, play 25 minutes a night kind of guy. And he was like that. But even he had issues in Sudbury, right, with the transition. So he had a period of adjustment there. But, what was great was he would just say to me, look, you just go, just know that I got the fort, right? So if you want to, you want to take the puck and run and have your fun, go for it. I'll be back here to take care of things. And that, that allowed me some freedom on the ice to do that. But yes, that was chemistry. And I kind of missed that in the NHL, but I can tell you that I wasn't able to do the offensive stuff in the NHL just, because of the speed of the game. And like I said, it's at a different game. And I hadn't, adjusted fast enough to carry on what I was doing in junior hockey. So I needed to change a little bit. But I'll tell you, a lot of the change was initiated by the coaching. Yes. Because I was 6'4", I was 206 pounds. They wanted a more physical side. And so they wanted, that was the style of the game back then. Yes. A big physical presence. But that wasn't my game. I was a point of game guy, offense. Yes, I could, accumulate penalty minutes, but that wasn't where my focus was. Yeah. Their focus was turning me into a big, physical presence. They wanted me to fight more. And that just wasn't my game. And I didn't want to play that style, unfortunately. No. So that's where we didn't really connect very well on that.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, if it were with another team right away, it would have been different, maybe, And
yeah. Well, I think it would have been because when I got to Edmonton, well, then a lot of that physical demand was relieved. I could just, and I was with a group of younger guys in Edmonton. Like if you recall, Chicago was. The Chris Chelios and Steve Smith and Roenick was the younger guy.
Well, he was a younger guy,
offensive player, But on defense, they were stacked, and it was an older veteran team, and so we didn't have that cohesiveness all the time. It was we show up at the rink, and then everybody would go home to their families, basically. In Edmonton, it was a much younger crowd and guys more of my age, so I felt a lot more comfortable in Edmonton, and therefore things started to turn around for me, but unfortunately as you can't predict, I forget how many games, 48 games into my stint with Edmonton, well then I suffered injury and that's the end of the career, but I know that would have been a better long-term place for me than a Chicago at the time. It would have they were more patient to work with me and allow me to do my thing with the younger guys. And so that connection was much better in Edmonton anyways.
Yeah. Did Chris Chelios try to help you out, or you played on his line at all, or?
Well, he and I, he was a right defenseman. I was a right defenseman, so we weren't obviously going to be out at the same time. But off the ice, off the ice, he was a veteran presence. A guy that would talk to the young guys and help them out. He was he was very helpful. I tell you what, when I wasn't playing, which was a lot, I was, sitting this up by the organ loft and watched a lot of games. I probably watched more games than I actually played with Chicago. But my job at that point was to watch Chris Chelios and Steve Smith. They were playing 30 minutes a night.
Yeah.
So I was a student. My role wasn't as, player. If I'm not in the lineup, I was now a student. So watch them play, watch, how easy they made the game play. They were always in the right position. They never looked tired. They played almost effortless. So I just kind of studied their game and try and bring a few things like that into mine. Just being aware of, being around guys like that. Honestly, they're great coaches, right?
Yeah.
They will teach you the little things that even, the coaches or assistants won't show you. Mm-hmm. Those guys know the little tricks, little things to make the game a little bit easier. And that was very helpful for me at that time.
What bothers me is when you play hockey, and like anybody, and they don't ever tell you what you need to work on. They always tell you, oh yeah, you're doing great on this and this, but they never really tell you specifically what you need to work on. I never got that, and and everybody that I talk to that say the same thing. What do you think?
Yeah, well, that came from the other players. Little tips here and there. You have a shift, something might go wrong on the shift, or a little error or something like that, and they'll be right there to kind of coach you through it. Nice. I think the jobs of the head coach and the assistants. I mean, the head coach is the motivator. He's, Mike Keenan's job was to light a fire under you and bring out a passion. The assistant's job were X's and O's, right? Here's the forecheck, here's the back check, here's the power play, whatever. Then it was the veteran guys who would teach you the little details, right? The little chip off the boards, the little, nudge in the skates here to keep a guy off balance, the little body positioning that puts you in control on defense to direct traffic. Like just those little subtle things that, that they take, for, as, granted in their game. But when they see it missing in my game, they would be like quick to give me little pointers like that. And that was stuff I never got from coach. A lot of the little things came from the veteran guys, like about how to play the game. Assistant coaches are just based on X's and O's and execution and those things. And if you're doing it right, they'll give you a pat on the back. If you're missing your mark, they'll let you know about it. But how to play the game, that's more of a veteran thing to a younger guy. And I appreciated that when I was in Chicago.
Yeah. And then you went to Edmonton Oilers and you played for Glenn Sather. He was your coach. How was that experience?
That was interesting. Glenn, I don't know that Glenn wanted to be the coach. We had Teddy Green. Teddy Green was the coach. Everybody loved him. But unfortunately, we weren't very good. So Teddy Green was dismissed during the season, and Glenn Sather took over. I think reluctantly. I don't think he really wanted the job. He just kind of, had to fill the role at least till the end of the season. So it made things a little, I don't know if it was uncomfortable, but there wasn't a lot of effort, I think, put into the coaching from Glenn's standpoint. I mean, he's an icon. He's a legend. His track record speaks for himself. At that time, I don't know that he was, willing or ready to take over the coaching job. So, practices were very basic. They were the same every day. We ran the same drills in the same pattern. It just, there wasn't a lot of new, exciting things at that time. So, we weren't, like I said, we weren't very good. We were a young team. And, that would have been a great time for, a guy like a Glenn Sather to really make an impact on a lot of guys. But, or conversely, you could say, look, he just allowed us to do our thing, right? Yeah. He allowed us to grow on our own and, without, micromanaging or anything like that. That's fine, right? Yeah. I mean, we were left to a lot of the assistants to work on our games and so forth. So it was a difficult time at Edmonton that, around then. There was also, we were just going into the lockout year. Remember, there was a strike coming up. So it was a hard transition. We loved Teddy Green. We loved everything about him. And it's unfortunate we just couldn't, put wins on the boards for him and keep it going.
It's a young team, at the time there was not many veterans. It does affect the team. You need the veterans too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was a financial thing, right? Because once the veterans got those contracts, well, then Edmonton, you're going to get shipped out, and then the younger guys brought in, such as myself and Stephen Rice and Scott Thornton and all these other former first rounders from other teams that were still on their first contracts, and they were reasonable financial decisions to ship out the older guys because financially it didn't make sense to hang on to those guys. So I understand. That's what made us so young. Because they could afford the contracts. So there again, wins were hard to come by.
And you had Doug Weight on your team. How good was he?
Dougie, I tell you, I roomed with Dougie when we were first there. We had our camp in Whistler, I believe, or Banff, and you could tell right away of his dedication. I mean, just the work ethic that he put into the gym, like off the ice, being prepared mentally, being prepared physically, and just the work ethic that he brought to the arena every day, the joy that he had. He was great. I mean, he was a budding star, right? And so I was around that when he first arrived, and you could tell that he was going to be something special. Just how dedicated he was. That was something new for me to see the young guy that hungry and wanting to get after it. That was Dougie Weight, and you could pick that up right away. And I was roommates when he was on the phone, trying to get his contract worked out, and he was right involved in all of that good stuff, which I wasn't. Right, I wasn't necessarily interested in the business side of things, but he was right in there, working out the details, with his agent and so forth, and. Obviously worked out for him. You could tell, like I said, he was a budding all-star even in his first years.
Wow. And over the years when you played, who was your toughest opponent or the player that impressed you the most on the other team, like skating against you? So you were defense, a forward.
Oh, that's a great question. And the one who surprised me the most, and it's a name that many people they may not remember or even think about, but a guy like an Ulf Dolan. I mean, to be honest with you, just the strength. He had size and strength that surprised me. Like you said, you want surprises. Some guys, they there's certain things that you can expect out of them. Either their speed, their strength, or whatever. But then I remember battling a guy like an Ulf Dolan in the corner and having that flash moment going, oh my God, this guy's hard to handle. And it would just be every time that we were on the ice together, every time we played against each other, it just seemed he stood out as surprising. I didn't expect that from him. And I think most people are surprised when I bring that name up to realize just how good and strong he actually was.
Yeah, he was very shifty and good puck handler. That's what I knew about him.
Yeah, he had a lot of positive things that I was not completely aware of. But based on his play, I soon learned not to take him lightly.
Yeah, and my channel's all about hockey sticks also. Wanted to ask, what kind of hockey sticks did you use over the years?
Okay, well, I was a Sherwood guy. And back in my day was the Woods, right? So I think a PMP 50 or it's been a long time.
50-30?
But it was 50-30s. Yeah, thank you. The Featherlights.
Yes.
I should have experimented more. I was never one that was really picky about my equipment, right? I was just, however the skates were cool, I would adjust. However the stick was cool, I would adjust. I had a very basic curve. Never really thought much about the flex. I didn't experiment till actually I got into Edmonton. And what happens, I got on a road trip and I ended up, breaking the rest of my sticks. And then a shipment hadn't come in where, okay, now I had to use other players' sticks.
Yeah.
And I go, boy, I wish I'd done that sooner. I wish I'd experimented a little sooner because, I would really love this curve or I really love this lie or the flex or the feel. Like, I wish I'd done that sooner, but it's just, again, my naivety was, you use whatever equipment you have, whatever you're comfortable. And it was cool to have my name on the stick. I thought, okay, well, I got my custom stick. And they're like, well, what do you want in it? And I'm like, well, I don't know, just, something basic. Right. And so that's how I worked with it. But, I was a Sherwood guy throughout, right through my career, and just kind of stuck with it. I probably should have experimented a little bit more, but
Sherwoods aren't bad. Sherwoods aren't bad. I mean, they had a good kick to them, and they were light for wood. They were light. They were easy to bend.
Yeah. I know there were some sticks I tried that I absolutely wouldn't, didn't work. I knew if they were too heavy or if there was not enough flex or something. So at least I had that kind of thing going with me. But the curves, I probably should have experimented a little bit more. I just had a simple heel curve or something. I didn't want anything too big, too flashy. I want to be able to use the backhand. So a little less curve worked for me. But I love my Sherwood. Any pictures you see of me, I'll have the Sherwood in my hand.
That's awesome. And you got a website. What do you do exactly nowadays?
Well, this is exciting because when I was struggling in Edmonton with confidence, I started working on mindset. Now, like I said, I went to the psychiatrist there to kind of get some help, but it wasn't what I was looking for. I really wanted tools that I could use to direct my focus and take control of mindset. So I really started investing in that for my own personal use in Chicago, and I've carried that through for almost 30 years, I guess, or however long it's been. And that's what I'm doing today. Is I teach mindset. I'm the mindset coach, and it's rewarding because these kids, as we talked before, they're under a lot of pressure and they don't know how to handle it. And I'm able to kind of guide them, coach them. The athletes today, they have power skating coaches. They've got skills coaches. They got shooting coaches. They've got their head coaches and assistant coaches. They might have a fitness instructor. They may even have nutritional instructors. But all that goes away if you don't have a strong mindset. And so I'm that missing piece for a lot of athletes that have all the tools, yet they're missing out on the mental strength. So I work with them on coaching them in that. My website is AdamBennett.ca. It's real simple. They can find me there. I work with athletes, literally around the world to coach them on mindset. And as I said, I'm just one more coach that aids these athletes along their journey. But I kind of feel like if you're missing the mental strength, then your game kind of fades away as it did with mine in Chicago. So that's where I focus now.
Yeah, I'm going to put your website in the description so anybody who's interested, they can see it in the description. And do you work with other sports, or is it just hockey, or is it people who are non-athletes? Or you work?
Well, I actually do. My focus is hockey. All right, that's obviously my background, and that's probably 90% of my business. But I do work with businesses. I do work with other sports as well. I've got baseball, and I've synchronized swimming, and because it all applies, right? Mental strength and mindset is not just an athlete thing. It's a success thing. And so that it translates very well into the corporate world. And, I wish I'd had it at a younger age, that I would have been able to control things a little bit better, be able to keep my confidence and so forth. But I didn't know, right? And you don't know what you don't know, right? Athletes might think they have it, but then they get into a slump, and then their confidence starts to go, and they don't know how to turn things around. Well, that's where I come in and help them out through those transitions. But it's giving them knowledge. It's giving them tools. It's actual, you got to coach them on these things. Some players might be born with, mental strength. They might be raised in an environment where it's groomed. Others, they need to learn it. And it is a skill that they can learn.
That's awesome. Adam, I want to thank you so much for coming on and talking to me on my channel. And all the best success to you in your company and your business that you do. That's awesome.
Well, I certainly appreciate you reaching out, Jack. It's been my pleasure, and thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome. Have a great day. Thank you.
All right, take care.
Take care.